Good morning, everybody. You guys can hear me? I think the last time I was this nervous was in school when I first participated in a debate competition. I forgot my script, all that I had learned was gone, and it was like a one blank sheet. But anyways, I'll try to do my best. And before you begin to wonder who is Anjuli and why should we listen to her, I'm one of you. I'm a merchant. I'm a merchandiser. And I've been one for many years now. So that gives me some solace that I'm amongst familiar people. And merchandisers, I know, are some of the smartest people in the industry. That makes sure that I'm also smart, right?
It also makes sure that you should not be nervous.
Yeah, sometimes I guess. So anyways, I think why coming to the second point on why you should listen to me here today is that because as a merchandiser, I today genuinely want to make a difference to you in these 30 minutes that have been allotted to me. I genuinely want to make a little bit of difference to your life today, right? And that's why I want you to sit back, relax, and listen to what I have to say. I don't claim to be any management guru or management expert or anything. As I said, I'm just a merchandiser. But there are some things across the journey of my merchandising career of 10, 11 years which delivered results. You know, and I actually started my journey from being a sample coordinator whose job was to do just dhaga matching, button consolidation, this and that. And I was reporting to 3 male bosses. Anyways, I've come a long way from there and, became a sampling coordinator to a assistant merchandiser to a merchandiser to a, assistant merchandise manager, then to a merchandise manager. It's been a good journey and a very addictive and exciting one. So there are some things which worked for me and some things which didn't. And I'm going to share some of those things with you today. And I've tried to give it some, format of a presentation for the sake of this August forum. But that's not the important part. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be sort of touching upon today in some way possible, because it's a huge, huge subject to talk about and probably take years to complete if I had to say all that I had to say. But because we have limited time, I'll touch upon 1 or 2 key things. I think the expectations from the merchandisers are pretty much like this in the community today. How many of you can relate to this? You are the true merchants. All of you, right? So we guys are omnipresent in the order cycle from the beginning to the end, right? And if things go wrong, we get the blame. Who gets the blame? All of you. I strike a chord there. Well, I just want to tell you a few stories that how make or break potential this particular function has. And as Archana rightly pointed, some of the skills are equal to the skills of a multinational CEO that are required of a merchandiser. It's a huge make or break situation. And I'll tell you a few stories that I think hit the nail where it's required. So this is the story of a typo error. I mean, a merchandiser at the beginning of a costing season is expected to populate 100 to 150 cost sheets. Am I right or wrong? Right? And to make a simple, point error is human indeed. Right? But wait a minute. See the implication. I came across a cost sheet where instead of 0.59, the merchandiser had typed 0.059 for the cost of a leather patch. 54 cents. And as luck would have it, that particular order turned out to be, out of all the development styles that he had costed, to be a 50,000 piece order. That's like 27,000 US dollar left on the table for somebody. I wish it was given to me. I could have gone on the Europe trip I dream of. Right? Can you imagine the amount of impact you guys can make on the bottom line? Right? I want to tell you another story. And this is the story of 85 on 101. From the day when the designer visits the design fair for trends, till the time that goods are shipped out of the shop floor, if there are 101 steps involved, there are 85 steps in which a merchandiser is involved in some way or the other. How many of you believe that this is the truth? Yes or no? Now, if we don't have the capability to make an impact, then who has? If we are not going to look for creating a differentiating edge in this kind of a function, then where else to look for? Right? Are you with me? This is the story of a good factory and a bad factory. Right? Talk to a buying office person, and two different people in that company might give you diametrically opposite view of a particular factory. Oh, Radnik, they are so wonderful to work for. I love that vendor. They're so good. I would just place all my business with them. And talk to another division fellow, he'll say, Radnik, I'll not touch them with a barge pole. Why? The simple reason is the merchant that was handling the order created that difference of perception in the mind of the customer. That is the kind of impact you guys can have. Same company, Radnik. But see the different perception. One is not willing to even touch you with a barge pole. The other is willing to swear by you. What makes the difference? It's the person, it's the you behind that order. You make that difference. Story of a lost order. This is another anecdote which I like to quote. And a very simple story. You know, when I was in Tommy Hilfiger, we were competing with the likes of Esquels and Tals and, the biggest names possible. And we lost one order simply because on one of the tags that was sent from our development samples and that the buyer loved, they wanted to use it as the possible product upgrade for their next year's core offering. You know what is a core offering? A shirt which sells throughout the year. It's the brain dead business that is so good for your company. Right? It runs your factory throughout the year without any inputs from your side. We lost that kind of an order simply because on the development swatch that the buyer loved so much and they wanted to use it, didn't have proper information on the tag. It didn't have complete, it just had some reference number scratched in an illegible fashion, and we broke our heads with the factory to find out ये कहाँ से आया कपड़ा, कौन से सप्लायर, कौन सी मिल, क्या प्राइस है, कितना लीड टाइम है. मैम अभी पता करके बताते हैं, ढूंढ रहे. We'll find out, give us some time. Who has the time? And similar swatch, a cutting from our swatch was sent to Esquel, who delivered in no time and got that order. Right? That's the kind of impact you guys can make. Right? So new environment, I don't need to dwell on this. I'm sure all of you are smart enough to know what the new environment is looking like. Right? This is a low entry barrier business. Right? This is highly competitive field. There is high competition. right? It's a global playing field. Now I just give one example whenever I talk about a global platform. There was one order which I handled in which the cotton was coming from Australia, which was being shipped to Pakistan to be then woven into grage fabric, and this grage fabric from Pakistan was being shipped to Sri Lanka, then for being dyed into different colors. From Sri Lanka, the fabric was being shipped to Bangladesh for being converted into pants, and the trims that were going on that pant were coming from Taiwan and China. And this inside the waistband trim fabric for that particular pant was coming from another factory in China who was manufacturing shirts to be coordinated with that pant, all to be shipped at the same time, and then it was selling on the shop floor in the Europe and in the US together. The shirt from Taiwan, the hat from China, the pant from Bangladesh, across the globe. That's the global field we are talking about. This kind of complexity, believe me, is not available to many industries. So we are actually fortunate that we have this dynamic platform available for us to hone our skills and show to the world that yes, we are smart. This kind of dynamic platform is not available to an automotive industry. They have different kind of issues, I'm sure, but not this kind. So you guys should feel proud of working in a very, very demanding and dynamic field. You have the platform. So the skills required of you are definitely going to be much higher than all the IM institutes put together. How's that? Right? And it's a dynamic retail environment, again, for fads and fashions. Customer is very fickle today. He is more for a Topshop or a Zara. He wants to wear this today, he doesn't like it tomorrow. Right? The selling season is now reduced to a week's time, and goods start discounting. That's the challenge of a retailer. You don't have much risk other than the risk of airing the goods. But look at the retailer, he runs the risk of unsold inventory. What will he do with all those fancy clothes if they don't sell? So he has to start discounting within weeks. Fast turns, responsiveness, right? Pressure on price, it's a misnomer today that the customer will pay you more for a better quality and less lead time. He will not. He will still want you to do it for less, do more for less. Give me quick, give me good quality and for less, right? And it's a buyer's market. Let's face it. Let's just face it and accept it that it's a buyer's market. You may say buyer is unreasonable, they are not understanding this and that. They have a choice to go to another supplier. And that's the reality we cannot run away from. International sourcing, I think this is repetitive. So this is the new environment. I think this is just a fancy slide, I'll skip it. So merchandising, I believe, is an opportunity to create a differentiating edge because you are the people interfacing with the customer from beginning to end. And certain factors like price, quality, delivery, all these are now given. They are just, they can't be the differentiating edges. The differentiating edge comes from how a customer feels about you, what his perception is about, are you good to work with, what is the ease of business, do you deliver, how reliable are you service oriented, do you understand their problems? Do you know their challenges? That is what will come from you guys, right? So what we need today is a new paradigm. How many of you know the meaning of the word paradigm here? Raise your hands. Other than Radnik crowd. Good. You are expected to know. Paradigm. We use these words very easily without knowing the meaning, really. We just say paradigm shift ho gaya. What really is a paradigm is your worldview, the way you look at the world around you is your paradigm. And the way you interpret your situation or the world around you is your paradigm. And to know your paradigm, you've got to first reflect back on how you are really viewing. We are too busy to even reflect. Merchants are very busy. They don't have time to reflect back. So paradigm is really, if I wear a pink chashma today, the world is pink to me today. That's my paradigm. And if I change my glasses and wear something else, then that changes the view. So what is needed of you guys today is a paradigm shift in terms of how you view your role, how you view the job that you are supposed to do. What is your personal, individual definition of the job that you are expected to do? And nobody is going to tell the expectations to you. That days are gone, where people would spell out clearly. You have to take the individual responsibility to figure out, what can I do? Because you want to grow in your career. Whose responsibility is your career growth? It's not anybody else's responsibility, it is your responsibility. So who will figure out, how will you create a differentiating edge about yourself as an individual first? It is you. So you need to definitely change the way you view your jobs. People have talked a lot about how an important role that this merchandising plays. So then can you afford to be a mere merchant? You can't. You have to change the way you view your job from being a mere merchant, simply completing a list of tasks that you draw every day in your diary, to that of a smart project manager, managing and accomplishing projects in a multi-style environment within limited time frame and resources. There is only one Masterji available for so many departments, right? Limited resources. That is the way you need to view your job. And you have to ask yourself the questions deep within, do you have the skills? If you don't, then whose responsibility it is to upgrade your skills? Yours. You better go and make sure that you increase your typing speed to 60 minutes an hour. Because you can't afford to type with one finger anymore. Right? Whatever it takes, it's up to you to figure out and go ahead and look to upgrade those skills that are needed today. Then only you can rise. Why I call the merchants are the smartest people around? Because they are always involved in firefighting. How many of you agree that they are the best crisis managers? Merchandisers are the best crisis managers. You want to look for best crisis managers? Look in this room. You will find them. But my contention today is, and has always been, that you are not James Bond 007 if you can do firefighting. No. You are James Bond 007 if you can prevent a fire. Those are the skills you need to focus on. And typically that doesn't happen because 80% of the time we are too busy firefighting to even think back and reflect. Every day there are fires to fight. Who has the time to think back and reflect on how to prevent the fire? Right? Are you with me? I hope you're not sleeping. I can't see from here. From being controlled or a victim of the situation. Fabric नहीं आया, वो मास्टर जी काम करके नहीं दे रहे हैं. That department is so inefficient, they are not delivering. What is the point of me creating a TNA when nobody understands the TNA in the other departments? Then you are letting the circumstances control you. How quickly we say, no? The fabric guys are not delivering. Master ji is not, sampling department is so inefficient, they never deliver us samples on time. Quick to blame, very quick to blame. And when we are quick to blame, we put the responsibility outside of us to some external source, which means we allow that external source to control us. We have to change that paradigm. And believe me, you don't need to be the CEO alone to take charge of a situation that has been given in your hand to handle. You just have to take charge of the situation. Take charge completely from beginning to the end. You are in charge. Fancy words I'm talking, right? I wish I had a magic wand here and I could convert all of you just by this motivation and pep talk and convert you all into smart project managers. It doesn't happen. There is no magic. There is no magic which will turn you into smart project managers overnight. It's actually a discipline which people spend five years to master. To become a certified PMP, you have to slog for 5 years, then you know the tricks. And I don't claim to be a certified PMP myself, or a certified project manager, professional myself, no. Because it's a huge science, it's a huge discipline, and a lot of industries use the basics, use those project management skills. You go to construction industry, you go to IT industry, any other industry which is rising and shining today, they use these tools and techniques which have been available for ages. 60 years ago, 70 years ago, somebody wrote a book on theory of constraints or project management skills. So it's not new. I'm not telling anything new here. So what are the tools that those people use? How many of you are already familiar with some of the terms that I'm going to use here? Work breakdown structure, critical path management, program evaluation and review technique, risk assessment and management, change control process. Anybody familiar? Some of you, I'm sure. Some of you. Now these sound very fancy jargons, right? But they are not so fancy. They are basically commonsensical things to do when you launch on any project or anything that you do, even at home. Managing home, now I'm learning, now that I'm at home these days, is a project in itself. And it needs similar skills, similar project management skills. And we don't need to go into fancy software of, ERP package or anything. No, first we have to figure out the basics. First we have to know the basics. So what is really a work breakdown structure? In simple terms, intuitively, all of you guys already do it. But if you knew a way, a methodical and scientific way, and if you did it consciously, then it can make a huge difference. Work breakdown structure is nothing but listing down of the 1,000 activities that needs to be accomplished before you will call your project complete. And in your case, the project that you handle is each PO, each purchase order, each style purchase order that comes to you. It's a project. You have to do these 1,000 activities. You have to place the trim order, you have to place the fabric order, there has to be a lab dip approval, there has to be color, quality, size approval, first of bulk, whatever, you know the list, right? And the trick here is that when you prepare this list, it has to be 100%. There should not be even 0.001 activity missing when you list down the activities that are needed to be done. Because in that 0.001 is where the surprises are hiding for you, waiting to face you without letting you know. That carton sticker which you think of at the last minute suddenly springs up as a surprise. Because in the beginning when you prepared your work breakdown structure, you took it for granted. Carton sticker की बात बाद में सोच लेंगे. पहले धागा fabric, right? But that is the flaw. Because in the beginning when you are planning, the work breakdown structure means when you add 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2, 2.1, 2.3, all the activities should add up to, what's the number? 100. And then 1. Even if 0.01 is missing, that is what will crop up as a surprise. That is work breakdown structure, nothing fancy. But how many of us really spend quality time when we receive a purchase order to really list down the 1,000 things that we need to do? We prepare a TNA for the sake of the buyer. Buyer ने मांगा यार TNA 3 दिन में भेजना है किसी तरह, एक बना बनाया फॉर्मेट भेज दिया, कुछ डेट्स डाले उसमें और भेज दिया. That is not TNA management. No. You really actually have to learn. That's your job. That's what the company is paying you for, and they have entrusted you with a huge responsibility. They have actually entrusted you with their business, their bottom line. Right? So you're not doing it for the sake of a formality anymore, because it's part of your job profile or you're requested to do, you have to send a TNA. No. That's really your job. You have to list down the 1,000 things, and they should add up to 100. Not even 0.1% should be missing. Coming to critical path management, how many of you actually use this term critical path in your lingo already? Raise your hands. That's right. So what do you think is critical? Anybody?
It can make the project failure.
Anybody else?
Shortest and least time consuming. Most useful. It takes the highest amount of time.
That's right. 1%. Critical, we use this term very loosely without really knowing the meaning. And that's what critical path management teaches us. It's a science. It's a scientific tool available for ages, and we just need to adopt it and use it effectively. And I'm not going to teach you full thing. I'll just touch upon the basics. There are 3 types of activities: sequential, parallel, and critical. Which ones are the sequential activity? One after the other. When activity B cannot begin till the time activity A is finished, that's a sequential activity, right? Your dyeing cannot begin till the time your lab dip is approved, right? That's a sequential activity. What's a parallel activity? They are not dependent on each other. They can continue parallelly. So when you receive a PO, you can place your trim order, you can start your fit sampling, you can place your fabric development parallelly. They are not interdependent. Agreed? And then what is the critical activity? I'll come to that in my later slide. Think about it. What's critical activity? PERT. PERT is nothing but a more realistic estimate. When we listed down in the WBS, when we listed down the 1,000 activities that we need to accomplish.
Sorry to interrupt, Anjali. We
Sure.
are really enjoying your presentation, but you have about 2-3 minutes to wrap up. I think so.
Okay, so I'll skip PERT and all. Forget this. Because in one nutshell, it's nothing but taking a realistic time frame for your activity. Let's say fit approval. So you say my fit approval will take 10 days is my positive or optimistic estimate. That will take me 10 days time. Right? And you say worst case scenario 10 में नहीं तो 15 दिन में तो हो ही जाएगा. That is 15 days is your worst case scenario. And then you take the middle path, realistic. Not this extreme, not that extreme, in the middle. That's a realistic scenario. And then you divide it by a formula which is available. So that hedges the risk of extremes in your time estimation. So anyways, you can contact me later on for this kind of a detailed session. I love to do this. Yeah. No, I conduct training workshops for these guys, so I'm available. Okay. So what I believe is the most important job that a merchandiser today does is managing, monitoring and controlling the various deadlines, various activities and the deadlines related to achieving those activities to make the order reach its conclusion. That's the most important job a merchandiser does, right? So this was the critical path. Actually, it's the longest path. When you draw up a critical path, I made a very simple path for you. I hope you can read it. I just drew it by hand. You guys can read it or no? So the longest path is really the critical path, because that's where not even a day's delay is possible. Even if you delay by 1 day, it is likely to impact your garment delivery. So when you have to prioritize your things to do, this critical path knowledge should help you which tasks to pick up, which to put for later. Because you can't do everything. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from merchants is, ma'am, everything is important. How can you not do this? How can you not do that? No, if everything is important, then nothing is. So this critical path knowledge will help you then to pick, what to drop for the day. How do we apply it to merchandising? How we can employ this into our day-to-day work life? What monitoring and control system can merchandisers adopt at each stage of order cycle to keep it on track? What early alert mechanisms will you adopt and implement so that your bosses never tell you, "Abhi tak so rahe the kya? Why are you telling me now? I can't do magic." Right? So you have to have mechanisms built in your follow-up system to raise alerts early in the game. Nobody should be able to tell you that, "Why didn't you tell me at the right time?" Right? And what can you do to become more customer-centric? I know customers are eccentric, so you have to become customer-centric. Right? There is a comment which comes, "This color is too warm, it's shouting back at me." Now what will you make of that? It's your job to know what the customer means by that, and how you will then interpret, understand, and then relay this requirement of buyer to the factory, to the fabric manufacturing firm who doesn't know what a color shouts back means. Buyers will not change. Face it. You will have to figure a way out to know. That's what being customer-centric is about. When you understand the lingo of the customer, the way they mean it. Right? So again, I will go through some tools. How many minutes?
Did your time already.
Okay, guys. So I'll say goodbye to you. I hope I made a difference in these few minutes that I spoke to you. And I've got tons and tons of tools, and I have this army of SOPs that I've followed in my life, and I'm going to upload it on my website very soon. So you can go and take a look at it there. And I also run a platform called Smart Merchants Club, which I intend to publicize in a big way, and that's why I'm using this forum, which is really a platform for you guys to share the challenges that you face. Because standing here, it's easy to give a talk, but when you do the job, really you realize what the problems you face, right? So one of you may not have the answers to all the problems that you're facing, but when we collectively discuss and share, I'm sure we can figure a way out, right? So then please visit that platform, and I would like to conclude my session because I don't want to exceed my time limit. Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you.